Welcome to the History Channel's Look Back at the 9/11 year. I'm Arthur Kent. The terrorist attacks that day focused America's attention on the Islamic world. Some Americans' first reaction was to regard all Muslims as enemies, but it was clear to most that they had to make a distinction between one of the world's great religions and the fanatics who had taken it to a violent extreme. In this program, we'll take a close look at the history and beliefs of Islam, its former empires, and how it has evolved to become the religion it is today. Join us now as the History Channel presents Inside Islam.
It is a sound heard around the world 5 times a day. A simple verse in Arabic, summoning the faithful to prayer, calling them to Islam. The word Islam means submission. Submission is considered the straight path to God.
What this means is that our will, all human beings' wills, is subjugated to the will of God. That is what submission means.
Accordingly, a Muslim is one who submits to God.
Everything revolves around God. Everything we have, all of
Common to Hebrew and other related languages.
The word that we greet each other with is in Hebrew, Shalom Aleichem, which means peace unto you. In Arabic, it's exactly the same, Assalamu alaikum. And I think that's very important because Islam itself, the very name Islam, comes from a root which means peace.
But many in the West today would never associate peace with Islam. To them, Islam appears to be a hostile religion that gives sanction to violence and terrorism.
After September 11, it's very difficult to talk of Islam as a religion of peace and compassion. When you visualize those planes flying into the towers, it's very difficult to explain.
But recent events are not entirely to blame for this perception. It is 1,400 years of history.
Really take a step back and look at the major world religions, the ones that have stood the test of time. Islam is the only tradition that has really ever threatened the existence of Christianity.
Since its beginnings in the 7th century, Islam has spread to every corner of the globe. Although Westerners tend to think of it as a religion of the Middle East, most of its adherents live half a world away. Indonesia in Southeast Asia is the largest Islamic country, with more than 170 million Muslim citizens. By contrast, only about 7 million Muslims live and practice their religion in the United States. But that number is growing.
There are over 1,000 mosques in the United States now, and so Islam is not just a world religion that's out there somewhere, but it's very much a real presence here in the United States as well.
Like most major religions, Islam is composed of different sects or orders that have evolved over the centuries from the original Orthodox tradition. The two largest are Sunni Islam and Shia Islam. The Sunni make up 85% of the world's Muslim population, while the Shia represent about 10%. There are many smaller sects, as well as methods of practice. The mystical Sufis seek a state of purification, allowing them to focus solely on God. One Sufi order, the Dervishes, spin to attain a state of ecstasy they say brings them closer to God. Though Islam may seem very different, it actually shares a majority of beliefs with the world's other two great monotheistic faiths, Judaism and Christianity. Most important is a common faith in the same God.
The word, the God in Arabic is Allah. So any person who speaks Arabic, whether Jew or Christian or Muslim, will say Allah for God.
Islam itself regards all three religions as part of a single tradition.
Judaism came first, Christianity came, and then Islam came. And that it's just a continuation and a completion of the same message that God has been trying to send to all people throughout time.
The Quran, the holy text of Islam, specifically refers to Jews and Christians as fellow people of the book, that book being the Holy Bible. The Quran retells and expands upon many of the stories of the Bible, going back to the creation.
The truth that unites us together at the first level is that we all come from Adam and Eve.
Islam also acknowledges as divinely inspired all the Old Testament prophets, including Noah, Moses, Joseph, Jacob, and even David.
Americans most of the time realize how close Islam is in its fundamental concepts to Christianity and Judaism. Most Americans don't realize, for example, that Muslims consider Jesus to be one of the divinely inspired prophets.
Jesus is very, very highly venerated in the Quran. He's mentioned by name 93 times in the Quran, but not as divine. And this is a place where, of course, Christians and Muslims clearly separate. It's a very major issue.
As Muslims, we don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God. We do believe that he was born of a virgin and of Mary. However, we don't believe that he himself is God or that he's a son of God.
The story of Jesus in the Quran expands upon his life, adding detail where the Christian Gospels are mute, such as his defense of his mother Mary before the townspeople of Nazareth.
The moment they started suspecting about the Virgin Mary, Allah says to Mary, you don't speak to them. You point to your son and let this small baby speak and defend you, and defend the integrity and the chastity of his mother. And that's what he did. This miracle is not mentioned in the Bible.
The Quran also differs radically from Christian belief in the death and resurrection of Jesus.
Jesus was so special that when his enemies came to crucify him, God lifted Jesus to heaven, and so Jesus was never crucified.
Behold, Allah said, O Jesus, I will take thee, and raise thee to myself, and clear thee of the falsehoods of those who blaspheme.
It is in the chronicle of Abraham in the book of Genesis that we find the roots of Islam in the Bible.
Abraham is a highly revered figure in Islam. At every prayer is for Abraham and his descendants.